Hey, y'all like my new lights? Are they cutesy? Are they demure? Is it giving what it's supposed to give? Y'all remember it was taking so long for me to get this together and I was like, oh my god, it's gonna be so long, it's gonna be so hard. No, it's literally not. It was so easy. I literally just put them on and they were on. So yeah, they're so cute. I love it. I was gonna do like a little heart above my head, but I didn't exactly do it the right way. But I like how authentic it is. Like it's like that. I think it's cute, bitch. I love it. Thank you, Lex. So chat, I wanted to do a little conversation about Miss Mama C. Because since we have an interview tomorrow with Trey, if y'all didn't see the flyer, that means you're not in the Discord. You need to hurry up and get in the Discord. But I wanted to read you guys her Reddit and the timeline that they have put together for who she is as a person. Because I feel like since I'm new to the crew, I'm new to the Tampa, conversation, I feel like it's time to really get into who these people have seen her be for the last 4 years. As y'all know, Miss Kristen Whitman started off in 2020. So I'm new to every conversation when it comes to this woman because I'm coming into 2024. You feel me? So new to every conversation when it comes to this woman because I'm coming into 2024. You feel me? So I thought I would just, maybe we'll run a battle. Let's see what Mr. Uchi wants for a second.
So, what up, my baby? What's popping with you?
Uchi, I am not one of your babies.
Oh my God, I'm a Detroiter. That's how we show a term of endearment. We say that to everybody. What up, my baby? It's not like my baby. It's
Well,
like, what's up, fam?
I'm a little busy, Mr. Uchi. Can I hit you back later?
Hold on. Black girl magic. Okay? I didn't come over here to battle or nothing like that. I came over to compliment you and tell you that you are absolutely a beautiful, very beautiful brown skinned woman. Clear skin, beautiful lips.
Thank
You
you.
the shit, babe. That's all I wanted to tell you. Love you. Have a good evening.
You too. LOL. Uchi is a character of his own. Anyways, chat. Oh my god, this filter is glitching in and out. Is it good? Is it good? Hello? Okay, whatever. Anyways. So I wanted to read you guys what they have put together as the person she is for the last 4 years, that they have known her, that they have watched her, that they have seen her actions online. Okay. We are talking about Miss Kristen Whitman. Have seen her actions online. Okay. We are talking about Miss Kristen Whitman, Mama C. Oh my God.
Oh, there we go. What do you want?
You called me.
Yeah, but why are you looking at me like, wait, can I see who this is? Someone called Honey Trap. Wait there. Yo, Honey Trap.
What's up?
Sorry, I didn't want to decline you, but me and Feenyx have a very big arranged battle right now.
Okay. Alrighty.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Hi.
That was good, isn't it?
You're a liar. That's funny. What do you want?
Hello, how are you, brother? You are beautiful. Nice is the cute. Hello.
Anyways, before we get rudely interrupted again, I will be turning off my requests because clearly people are just not understanding that I'm not here for y'all today. I'm here for my people today. You feel me? Anyways, so I turned off my request. Let's get into it, shall we? Okay. So I'm going to be reading for y'all word for word what this Reddit page has put together as a full timeline to what Mama C has been showing online for these last 4 years. I'm going to go ahead and put this up. Let me do this. Mama C timeline. Boom. So we're just going to put that right there in the oh, damn. I just deleted it as I was trying to place it. Goddamn. Hold on, chat. Mama C timeline. Because I just feel like we all need to be on the same page when the interview is coming up tomorrow. If you haven't seen the flyer yet, I posted it on my story. I posted it on my Discord, on my 3.0 page. I might have even put it on my Instagram. Okay, so let's get into it while we're having this conversation. This is my last account, y'all. My 2.0 and my 3.0 are clipped until the 3rd and the 4th. So instead of having anything be clipped on my main, we're just going to make sure we do what we got to do to keep it up. So I need y'all, if you can, send small gifts, tap the screen, share the live, get it going. Mods, if you're in here, Rosa, Vicky, Ariana, Durkee, you know, my mods. If you guys are in here, please share the live to the Discord and tag at everyone, please. So let's get into it, shall we? Thank you for the gifts, Tay. So I'm going to read for y'all. This is page 1. Now, there is 17 pages in the first part. There's another 13 pages on part 2. So let's start with first one, okay? Mods, while y'all are in the bidding, can we just keep tapping like goals or keep pinning like goals and pinning share goals, follow the host, subscribe to the YouTube, interview tomorrow, that type of stuff, okay? So let me go ahead and put that off. Okay, so this is the start. The start is looking good. That's what the title is. In 2020, the first TikToks started showing up of 2 girls dancing onto a trending song. These girls are Kristen Whitman and Liv Dady. They both were living in Michigan at the time, but they were trying to move to the TikToker state of Florida. By December 2020 or January 2021, Kristen started dating a guy named Connor Jung, another TikToker who had a large following and gave Kristen an even larger audience. They made a lot of videos together, mostly cute couple videos that can be seen still to this day. For most of 2021, Kristen and Connor had a very tumultuous relationship. Videos were made throughout the relationship showing the couple breaking up and then getting back together. Normal young love things, I guess. But they gathered more viewers every time they broke up and inevitably got back together. Sad songs were used, and then, of course, trending love songs were played while kissing or dancing. A promise ring was even given at one point to prove how serious they were despite the constant back and forth. Towards the end of 2021, the couple, along with Liv and another friend, Rocky, went to Hawaii together. Outside of that relationship, Liv and Kristen made their normal lighthearted dancing videos and other fun videos typically seen on the app. The two became very close and were almost inseparable. In almost every video, the other would appear or at least be mentioned in the comments asking where the other girl was if not seen. There was a fascination that drew a larger audience and grew the girls a massive number of followers. Of course, being that the pair was young and pretty, they attracted many different people to them. It also helped that they moved to Florida where all young, larger TikTokers go to become internet famous. Some important people to note in the future would be Rocky, J Sauce, KB, and Whitney Wren. So follow along with me, chat. This is like a story time, read along type thing, okay? Also, my dog is playing a game in the back, so if you hear like papers rustling, that's him. You know, just ignore that. On the surface, it appeared that Kristen was just a 21-year-old girl having fun in Florida and making money on TikTok. However, the next year proved that her whole appearance was nothing more than a facade. Okay. Well, none of that was real. In January 2022, Kristen made it public knowledge that her and Connor had broken up for good this time. She started to make claims that he was abusive and that he had been having relations with a girl back from his hometown. At least that was the reason Kristen put out to her fans to believe. Later, however, other cheating claims from Connor's side would come to light and be proven as fact by Kristen herself. One claim being that she cheated on Connor with a friend named KB, and other claims naming Rocky. Both of those boys were friends with Connor at the time of the cheating, and it would become a reoccurring thing for Kristen to hook up with or date Connor's friends. This year also brought up a lot of issues for the housing situation of Liv and Kristen. They were evicted from an apartment where they were living in the part of 2021. The apartment was in a complex where Rocky and J Sauce were also living, and they too got evicted from the complex. The four decided to move into a house together by the middle of January. This housing situation stayed together for about 2 months, and then it all blew up. Let's start with when Liv moved out with her on and off boyfriend Brandon Mudden. In the middle of March, the allegations of Kristen cheating on Connor were confirmed true. To understand completely what happened, we must go back a bit of time. In the fall of 2021, Liv and Brandon were just friends, and Liv was dating Rocky. Rocky had been introduced to the group some months prior, and he and Liv became a thing, which is how he ended up in Hawaii with everyone at the end of 2021. Now, nothing truly serious became of Liv and Rocky, but they stayed friends afterwards. Eventually, Liv and Brandon got back together, and they stayed together until they again broke up for good before the summer of 2022. Now, going back to March of 2022, when Kristen and Rocky had been sleeping together, Liv asked about it, and they both lied to her face. Text messages were shown of Liv asking Kristen what happened. She replied that she would never do that to Liv. Rocky and Kristen finally came out and admitted to be having relations and lying about it. Liv felt uncomfortable with the living situation because she could no longer trust her best friend, and that's what led her to leaving and not talking to Kristen anymore. So that's the first allegation of cheating that was confirmed true when it comes to Liv and Kristen. After this, it looks as if Kristen was evicted again and had to move into a new house, and Rocky and J Sauce moved in with her as well. J Sauce was really just going anywhere Kristen went that year. That about covers the springtime, so most of the beginning of the summer in 2022 was dedicated to Kristen trying to get a relationship out of Rocky and posting drunken thirst traps with Whitney Wren. Whitney Wren is important from here forward. She was around the group for about a year or so prior to this summer. The picture above with Liv from Halloween 2021. But it's interesting to note the timing for her to be more involved once Liv is out of Kristen's life. Whitney is about 2 years older than Kristen and is native to Florida. Her main source of income is FO content, and her role in Kristen's life was to ensure a steady paycheck from here on out. Whitney becomes problematic as time goes on, showing that she is nothing more than a racist PDF file. Dropping the N slur multiple times and admitting to the camera to being 18 and sleeping with a 15-year-old. In the video, she is seen laughing with Kristen as if statutory RAPE is funny. Florida law states that when relations conduct is with a minor, anyone under 18, happens with an adult, anyone over 18, it is considered SA. It is a felony and carries a heavy sentence. Also, it is important to know that Florida law states that the age of consent is 18. That was a child, and Whitney still thinks she did no wrong. Worst part of it all her fans will sit there and make excuses for her, saying it's normal. Moving on. At the end of July 2022, Rocky and Kristen ended their little relations for good, and he moved out of the house with claims of him taking the washer and dryer with him. But nothing to worry about because Kristen had another man to fall back on, her roommate at the time, J Sauce. Kristen, however, soon left the house and let J Sauce live alone and for free until the beginning of 2023, while she lived at Whitney's house for the remainder of the year. In August, Liv and Kristen became friendly again and made TikToks to show it, a way to end the ongoing hate that comes from disagreeing with Kristen. This reunion also caused the Craze fans to swarm in to weigh in with their opinion. Most of them asked what would happen to their favorite dysfunctional friendship if Liv was back in good with Kristen. They would wind up in Nashville by the end of the month with a group of girls, including Whitney and Liv's new best friend, Jordy. They were also a group of boys that knew all the girls, including Connor, Rocky, and J Sauce. At some point one night, they all ended up in the same club, and Rocky kissed Liv while the two were dancing. Rocky had told Kristen multiple times that he did not want a relationship, and she tried to play like that was fine. until that night at the club. Kristen saw this encounter and was later seen crying over it. By the close of the trip, the friendship of Kristen and Liv completely ended. While Kristen and Whitney got home, they started a new attack against someone close to them. This person was another friend of theirs. Soph is another young person who moved from Maryland to Florida for college. She became friends with Kristen at some point earlier in the year and in May of 2022, was invited to go to prom with two boys from high school. The girls tried to go in, but weren't allowed because of Kristen's age and because they showed up drunk to a high school dance. Soph was talking to this guy named Gavin Kirsten in September 22, and he came to Florida to meet her. After they met, he went right over to Whitney's house. Whitney was texting him the whole time. He was visiting Soph and telling him to come over to her house. This ended the friendship with Soph and Gavin, and Whitney stopped talking maybe 2 weeks later. Gavin now dates a TikToker named Chloe the Cowgirl. Whew. Around the same time, Kristen was in the middle of entertaining two different men. It's hard to tell who truly had her full attention. And honestly, I don't think either of them ever did. But first up is Tyler Herring. He is from Nashville. He is from the Nashville trip and was being talked about as a crush of Kristen's, and he was definitely reciprocating those feelings towards her. Fly Soldier from the Island Boys. I didn't know Fly knew Kristen Whitman. Listen, y'all, I'm just reading what's in this post, okay? Just listen. Fly Soldier from the Island Boys was also coming into her lives almost daily to talk and hang out. Both men stuck around in the hopes of her putting out like she does for every other man that walks into her life. Towards the end of September, Kristen planned for herself a birthday party that ended up being a weekend boat trip to Miami. Nice. She had invited all her friends at the time, but only a few actually showed up. There were Whitney, Bree, and Gavin, both Whitney's friends, J-Sauce, Tyler, and Fly. This caused speculation as to why more people did not show up for their friend's birthday trip and why some of the most random people did attend. During this trip, this band of misfits did nothing but be drunken, health hazards, and thankfully for all of us, it was displayed on live. The first night we saw Kristen and Fly dancing close and being very flirty with each other. It got to a point where Kristen was throwing back her non-existent ass on Fly, and when he tried to kiss her, she rejected him. It became a huge debate on who was in the wrong because Fly tried to kiss her while she was drunk, but she was showing the intent to do more later on in the evening, all day and all night. Fly left the trip the following day. During the same night, Tyler was seen in the same bedroom as Kristen. The night before, when asked live if she was sleeping alone, she responded yes, but not tomorrow night. Meaning, after being all over Fly on the night prior, she spent the night with Tyler. Messy as. Afterwards, Kristen seemed bored of both pickles and went on to attack someone else's relationship. Fly gave little to no F's, and Tyler got his 19-year-old feelings all twisted up. The next month, in February 2022, Kristen wanted to join in on Whitney's fun on effing things up for other people. She did this by going after another one of their friends' boyfriends. Meet Meg Massey. Meg went on the trip to Nashville with the girls and stayed friends with them after the drama with Liv happened. Meg had been talking to this guy who goes by the name Kid G. The two had known each other since March of that year, but that meant nothing to Kristen. See, Kristen somehow met Kid at some point and they started to have relations. Kristen even went to stay with him while he was doing a show and was seen with him at a bonfire afterwards. This fling also didn't last long, and when they fizzled out, Kid and Meg worked things out and Kristen made claims of abuse against him, which still go unfounded. Kid and Megan recently announced that they are expecting their first child in March of 2024. Okay. Let me get some water, chat. Thank you for the gifts. Okay. By December time, Liv was dating a guy named Zach and living in her own apartment still in Florida. Liv and Kristen still hadn't talked much and wouldn't for a few more months. But it's always good to see a girl go from being hated to having a happy life. Her comments were flooded with body shaming, mocking her lupus, and many other hateful things. They aren't friends at this time, but with all the new targets of hate, Kristen's fans had moved on from Liv to other girls and boys to harass. When Kristen was done effing up Kid G and Meg's relationship, she ran back to Tyler Herring as well as someone new, Tyler's friend, Caden McGuire. Kristen and Whitney went and stayed at Tyler's house for the holidays, where a mix of other TikTokers also gathered. Caden had been friends with Tyler, but Kristen just seems to favor having more than one guy at one time. So it was perfect for her to be more than friendly towards Caden as well. Many TikToks were made, and it gave impressions that she was once again using Tyler for her own benefit. Tyler is no victim in all of this, though, so don't worry about him. If you haven't noticed, all the people who stick around Kristen suck almost as badly as she does. During that time, we also met Tate, who was effing Whitney. Tate was on a reality show called Siesta Key prior to meeting Whitney and was also a resident of Florida. They seemed sort of serious, and in an insanely short amount of time, the things ended with them in a little over a month's time. Whitney went on to make claims stating that Tate was talking to other girls at the time of their relationship. After they broke up, fans of the girls went to Tate's comment section of TikTok to attack and would continue to do so for some time. Tate now dates a girl named Lynn Hall, who has been subject of discussion recently regarding the relationship. Whitney has made statements saying Tate cheated on Lynn with her, but Lynn doesn't seem to be bothered, so neither am I. This is spicy. Also, y'all, after this reading, I will be downloading and posting this to YouTube. So if you guys want to read it or listen to it on your own instead of reading it on the Reddit, you can do that too. New year, new victims. Rachel Weaver was introduced to Kristen and Whitney in January 2023. Whitney had Rachel over to her house multiple times, and because Kristen had been living there, she also hung out with Rachel on those occasions. Now, Rachel's story is interesting and intertwines with Kristen's because of Rachel's ex and baby dad, Jacob Savage. Jacob Savage was friends with Kristen's ex, Connor, before Rachel met her. Here we go again with Kristen having something to do with one of Connor's friends. Fun fact, Jacob was even seen with Liv and Zach in February of 2023. Rachel started dating Jacob sometime around the summer of 2021. The two had separate accounts as well as a joint account where they posted couples videos to show off their love for each other. They both gathered large followings from their daily postings, and people became invested in their lives over time. Sadly, in February 2022, things ended when messages showing Jacob had cheated on Rachel multiple times surfaced. Later on, Jacob would also post a video owning up to him cheating on Rachel during their relationship. A few different girls had reached out to Rachel to make her aware of the cheating, and Rachel posted them to show what a loser Jacob was. I would personally never cheat on someone who looks like Rachel. Anyway, after that, the couple made up and continued on with their normal postings. A few months later, into the summer of 2022, the two began posting about Rachel being pregnant with their first child. The videos are still available for viewing and paint a picture of the couple who really cared about each other and wanted a family no matter what happened prior to the pregnancy. After their baby was born in December, the two parted ways once again. Rachel began posting about being a single mother and having an absent partner in Jacob. That brings us to January and to Rachel being friends with these other girls, Whitney and Kristen. By February, it became a known fact that Kristen was dating Tyler. They had continued talking since December, and they started to have relations around this time. Valentine's Day was celebrated with Tyler, Mason Williams, Whitney, and Kristen. Mason had dated a TikToker named Leah before this, and after Valentine's Day, kind of fell off from Whitney, but continued his overall friendship with everyone. Mostly Tyler. Basically, he's important to know about except for this moment in time. Basically, he isn't important to know other than this moment in time. Sorry. Soph is seen back around the friend group more by March after all has been forgiven with the Gavin situation. A guy named Romeo is now in the picture, effing with Whitney. A friend of Romeo's named Dylan also came around the girls a few times for Kristen. It appeared that Tyler was no longer sleeping with Kristen because of one video seen of the boys spitting into the girl's mouth in Whitney's kitchen. But if Kristen was keeping true to her patterns, she was keeping more than one pickle at a time. Apparently, after this video, the date of the post being March 28th, 2023, Kristen spent every day with Jacob Savage. That's right, her friend Rachel Weaver's baby daddy and ex's Connor old friend. People have said they weren't friends, but the videos show Rachel trusted Kristen, even if Kristen had different intentions. A video was recorded of Rachel saying that Kristen saved her while Kristen held her close. Seems like a friendship to me. But what do I know about these people? What do I know about these people too? I have no idea. Kristen later made a video to publicly announce that she began dating Jacob. The video was posted May 13th, the day before Rachel's first Mother's Day. Yikes. In a post made by Kristen, she said that she hung out with Jacob after meeting Rachel and wanted to hear his side of events. He had already publicly admitted to cheating months prior, so we all know his side. But she said from then on, she only believed him. And this started endless comments of hate for Rachel by Kristen's fans. This is another pattern that is ongoing. If Kristen doesn't like someone or says someone is anything or someone says anything about her, thank you, lawyer, or someone said anything about her, her fans go wild on that person's page and they bully them into silence. In about a month's time, though, that would change. Just wait. I want to make this disclaimer. When it comes to Kristen and her fans, her people, her supporters, her friends, that's not going to work over here. That is not going to work over here. This is the Knicks Navy. I'm Feenyx, and we don't play that over here. There's no bullying that will ever fly under my comments, under my live, or in my life, period. You have met your match. Because if we want to call anybody a bully, I bully the bullies. We don't play that over here. And you responded to me, and what did you do right after? You deleted your video because you already know I wasn't playing with you. And that's why we have this conversation right now where I'm going to read the background story of you. So when I have a conversation about you, I know the real. And if I'm going to be the one to call you out, just know it's going to come heavy. We don't have minions over here. We have supporters over here. We don't have fans over here. We have supporters over here. We don't have people that are going to ride under your comments and bully you. We have people that are going to stand for what's right and what's wrong. It's that simple. We tell the truth. We say what needs to be said and we move on. Now, if you want to continue with the conversation after we have already said what we say, that's on you. Just like you said, you don't know me. And just like I said, I don't know you. But one thing I will always do is hold everyone to a standard that should be held around the entire internet so we can all be on the internet cohesively. You feel me? So if you fuck with who I am as a person, go ahead and drop a follow. If you don't, that's okay. Just sit and listen. Okay? At the beginning of June, Soph started being friends with Kristen and Whitney again, and for some reason as before, and for the same reason as before. Soph had been talking with a guy named Jesse. Whitney decided to also talk to Jesse and went out to California and stayed with him on his farm. Whitney started dating Jesse, who she met on TikTok, just like she meets all of her men, unless she just uses Soph to find them. At the end of June and into the beginning of July, the Whitman family vacation started, and of course Jacob, Whitney, and Jesse all went. The vacation turned into the four friends' drunken rampage in the Virgin Islands. This led to the public question This led to the public question missing visitations to see Gray, Jacob's son. He had complained about Rachel keeping Gray from him, but then he went on someone else's family vacation to miss visits. He even complained still after the fact, which made a lot of people wonder, what was he actually mad about? After vacation, it was no shock that Whitney broke up with Jesse. She got with the person Soph showed an interest in again, had relations with him, and then got the ick. Because of Whitney, Soph has been bullied for almost a month at this point and was tired of it. She ended up leaking the group chat with her, Whitney, and Kristen and exposed them all for saying messed up things. In this chat, we see so many texts that show the true character of Kristen and Whitney and their true thoughts on other people. The texts included threats to beat Rachel into a coma so she couldn't see her son. Kristen called herself stepmommy, then laughed. And Whitney talking poorly about Liv's best friend, Jordy's chronic illness. Whitney even compared her gluten allergy to being as bad as Liv receiving chemotherapy for her lupus. After these texts came out, fans still bullied Soph and Rachel as if nothing wrong was said, because you could see the text I send my friends. You should see the text I send my friends was the supporters' excuse as to why these texts were okay. I think they could all use a good therapist at this point. Agreed. By the middle of July, Whitney was ready to do what she does best, and that is to talk poorly about men she dated. She's again saying Tate cheated on her even though they had never officially dated, and now Jesse cheated too. Both are faults. Whitney just wanted to send her fans to comment on TikToks of Jesse and his new girlfriend, Whitney Hess. Also, interesting to note that Whitney Hess, pictured to the right, is friends with Chloe and Lynn, who also dated men from Whitney's past. Whitney broke up with Jesse, and when he moved on, like more normal people do, she made up a lie to make him seem like less than what he is. When this failed, Whitney moved on from that and focused on an easy target and someone more her type. Someone 4 years younger than her, Tyler Herring. The same Tyler Herring from Nashville last year, and the same Tyler Herring who was having relations with her best friend months prior to their relationship. Okay. Kristen is also doing what she does best, and that is trying to ruin other people's lives. This time around, she kept drama with Rachel going strong. Kristen was claiming to be unbothered and staying quiet about the situation, but she did nothing but make sly videos and have her friends attack Rachel. All during this, Rachel Reaver was being bullied by Kristen's fans, calling her a bad mom, a SLUT, and that she should unalive herself. Let me read that again. All during this, Rachel Reaver was being bullied by Kristen's fans, calling her a bad mom, a SLUT, and telling her she should unalive herself. All because of something set in place long before Kristen was around. Rachel didn't want to be around Kristen because of the violent threats made and continued to be made. This brought about for Kristen some need to be more involved for whatever reason that may be or so. Of course, Kristen's fans jumped into the situation as well. The comments made toward Rachel were just gross and uncalled for. Rachel has stated that she suffers from PPD, which can come about until a child, and PPD is postpartum depression, which can come about until a child turns 1, and there is no timeline for the longevity of it. So the longevity basically means there's no end to it. You don't know when postpartum depression is going to end. It just either ends or it continues, and there's no stop to it. The public bullying and ongoing commenting on Rachel's child were purely psychotic. Now, on a personal note for Rachel, do you remember the guy Romeo that was sleeping with Whitney back in March? The one who spit in her mouth on a TikTok? You probably do not remember too much because if you blinked too hard, the relationship ended. It lasted for a very short amount of time and ended quickly without much said. Whitney had nothing to say about Romeo until he started to talk to Rachel in August. Whitney went on to state that Romeo is a felon and violent and that Rachel is again a bad mother for letting such a person around her child. Here's the thing. Romeo was never tried for his crime. In fact, the charges were dropped at his hearing and a felony conviction never happened. The night the crime happened in March, Whitney posted his bail and turns out he sent her back $2,500 for her doing so. This also happened back in March, but still was used against him in August. All of these things were used to create hate around Rachel because of her personal need to be the reason she hurts. Meanwhile, Whitney had been dating Tyler during all of this back and forth on Romeo. It's weird behavior to date someone and be hung up on creating pain for another person because they are dating your ex. Facts, that is weird. This is the last page of part 1. As of September 2023, things are not settled down whatsoever. And if you haven't noticed, it most likely never will. This girl creates drama everywhere she goes and destroys other people's lives at any chance she gets. On multiple occasions, she has stated her fans are stupid and they will believe anything she says. Let me say this again. On multiple occasions, Kristen Whitman has stated that her friends are stupid and they will believe anything she says. That doesn't sound like a creator I would ever stand behind. If she said the sky was green, they would believe her, and this creates a toxic platform that is bad news for anyone who wrongs her. Kristen is in the middle of legal troubles now, and it is nothing but karma for her wrongdoings. Her repeated evictions seem to be another pattern of behavior displayed by Kristen. She did not pay her rent in August until the very end of the month. She had gotten eviction notice by the 24th when she still hadn't completed all the steps to avoid the eviction process moving forward. She tried to submit a handwritten letter to the court repeating herself 5 different times, but trying to make them all different points. It was a pathetic attempt to keep her apartment, to say the least. The court has the right to evict her even when she is paying her rent, even with her paying her rent because it was too late, and that she did not do the other steps that the court asked for her to do for them. We will see if the sheriff shows up at her door to escort her from the premises soon enough. Stay tuned for more updates as this complete shit show continues on. I know you all love this entertainment as much as I do. That is the end of part 1. That is the end of part 1. Now, if y'all are wondering why I'm reading this for any reason, it's because I was asked to speak on Mama C, because I weekly speak on shitty creators that I am told, I see, or I witness, and I call them out. That's what I do. So I was told about Mama C, didn't know about her, never knew anything about her. So as I'm getting to know about her, I'm reading more about her, I'm watching more videos, and I'm hearing more things about her. Okay? So that was part 1 that was posted on her Reddit. We are now going to read part 2. Okay? I asked you a year ago to do Mama C. Rach needed this so long ago. I was not even around a year ago. I started TikTok on I started my current platform, interviewing and such like that, on November 13th of 2023. That's 1. 2, I didn't start the list until about March of 2024 of this year. So there's no way that you asked me to speak about this woman a year ago, because I hadn't been doing this until March of this year. Okay. But I am very grateful that you guys even told me about this, because now I can speak up for the people that need to be heard and need to be vindicated. Okay. Now let's get into part 2. Okay. Vindicated is the word I was saying. Okay. Part 2. Let's get into it. Oh, this is blurry. Why is it blurry? Okay, well, let me try my best, okay? Should I get my glasses? Baby! Boo! Boo! Baby! Can you bring me my glasses? They're in the gold case in my vanity. One second, chat. Tap the screen, share the live for me. Also, if you guys are not in my Discord, join my Discord. In case you need to ask me any questions, or you want to ask Trey any questions tomorrow, you can write in the Discord, interview questions. And then also make sure you follow me if you're not already following me. Got my glasses, baby. We ready to go. Part 2. I hope you're ready for this, because it's going to be quite a ride. Last time we left out talking about Whitney and Tyler, but let's go back in time a little bit before we really get going. Okay. We are going to start at the end of July, when Kristen and her gang of misfits were hyping up their reality show. This show was supposed to include Kristen, Whitney, Tyler, Krish, Kaden, Jaden, and Taylor. No real information was ever given out about the show, and after the live show that happened on July 29th, nothing really came out of it. People paid money to go watch this group run around on stage and give each other lap dances. There were 2 singers in the group, but again, nothing much came out of their awful performances. Here is when things really started to kick off for Whitney and Tyler. Whitney had been given a lap dance to Jaden, and later on kissed Tyler, which in turn led to them having a relationship by September. All that gets passed around must settle at one point, right? Ooh, okay. Okay. Anyway, after their live show at the end of July, it was time to head to Michigan to attend Kristen's sister's wedding. Now, if you've been watching Kristen for some time, you know that Haley, her sister, did not want to extend an invitation to Whitney for the wedding. Haley said, of course, she can come if Kristen brings her as her +1. But she herself would not be invited. Kristen made a big deal out of this comment to the point of having Haley not only invite Whitney, but allowing Whitney to also bring a +1. Altogether, Kristen brought Jacob, Whitney, and Whitney brought Tyler. Kristen was the maid of honor and was involved in the wedding, while the other 3 were guests watching. While watching, Whitney took a picture of Haley's dress and posted it before Haley could. This would upset any bride, and instead of siding with her little sister, Kristen defended Whitney's action and buried the incident along with all other F-ups. It would take time, but eventually even Haley and Kristen's family forgave Whitney. Legal trouble is brewing again. After the wedding, it was time to head home to Florida, and there was a big surprise waiting for Kristen and Jacob. While away, a notice for eviction was left for them because rent was not being paid. They were some months behind, and the apartment complex was seeking a resolution from the courts with the matter. As you know from my previous timeline, Kristen is not the best tenant because she fails to pay rent frequently. No matter how she tries to spin the story, she has been evicted before, and this was just a ticking time bomb. In order to try and clean up this giant mistake, Kristen submitted a handwritten letter to the court. Most people who find themselves in this situation use a lawyer to submit these documents, but not Kristen. What she proceeded to hand in had numerous spelling and grammatical errors, and most of her excuses were just one excuse reworded 5 times. Her reasoning for this being unable to pay for months and not participate in daily adult life. She was traveling for her fake show and ruining her sister's wedding, of course. This note stated back and forth legal battle for a little over a month and would end by the start of October when the complex was fully paid and the eviction was dropped. In order to stay, Kristen and Jacob had to pay about $10,000 in total, and however they actually afforded it would forever escape me. However, the motive as to why they needed to remain in the apartment became clear when Jacob gained overnight visits with his son at the beginning of September. Kristen turned her podcast room into a nursery, and the podcast moved elsewhere for filming. The threat of eviction never stopped Kristen from having fun, though. Don't get me wrong. She still was drinking and traveling while trying to fight for her life against having to leave her apartment. That's hella funny. Her drunken escapades, of course, were never alone, and her sidekick, Whitney, was always close behind. And I could never forget about Jacob and Tyler tagging along with their drunken queens. When the four finally were done with leaving behind their responsibilities, they went back to Florida again. Kristen and Jacob went back to rotting on their couch, and Whitney went back to collecting dogs she rescues to care for. And Tyler, well, Tyler is only 20 years old and should be running far from Whitney, but remained glued to her. Baby mama number 1. I'm screaming. This is so funny to me. When they're talking about dogs, they mean men that she gathers. Kristen's birthday is in September, and much differently than the year prior, she spent it with someone who might actually love her. Last year, she was on a boat in Miami with a bunch of randoms, and this year, Jacob hired a company to plan a dinner for them by a dock. The two made a huge deal out of it, but outside of her people, no one actually cared that Jacob did this. This, however, marked the beginning of a whole new chapter of F for everyone involved. The following week, Kristen and Jacob had dinner out with Rachel and Romeo. Rachel and Romeo were still together at this point. In order to try to start a healthy co-parenting relationship, the four sat down for dinner. Of course, the night was on display by all parties involved, and in some people's mind, this is when the divide would come to an end. Later that night, Kristen posted a TikTok of her crying in the bathtub, and those who knew this bee was about to snap somehow, and this divide was going to be even bigger. When October rolled around, Kristen and Jacob had paid their rent and court fines. They were no longer being threatened with eviction, so they could go and do something to get people talking once again. Kristen had gotten tattoos before and has used this guy named Rave King, but they spelled it Rapist. Okay. Rave King has had many allegations thrown his way from girls saying he SA'd them while giving them tattoos. There was a live clip of Kristen reading a comment about this and playing it off like he never did anything weird to her. So there's no way he had ever been aggressive towards anyone else. That's weird. She's protecting people that are accused of SA. Kristen knows of his past and continues to use him for her tattoo artist. Even more, invited him over to her apartment to give her and Jacob tattoos one day. This day fell on a day when Jacob had his son, and still around this time, hold on. Is there a missing page? There must be a missing page, chat. Around this time, it is also public knowledge that Whitney had been being sued civilly by an old friend. The case started back in April 2023 when Whitney went on her podcast with Kristen and shared a story about child A-B-U-S-E. The friend and Whitney were childhood friends that grew up together but had a falling out in 2022 over certain aspects of Whitney's business. When the friend no longer served any use to Whitney, she went ahead and aired out a traumatic story from that friend's childhood. With this episode, the friend sought the help of a lawyer and filed for a jury trial based on Whitney's defaming her. Even though the girl was not mentioned by name, it was clear who Whitney was speaking of as you follow Whitney's story, which most of her podcast listeners do. As of now, March 2024, the lawsuit is still ongoing and replies between both parties are still going between the court in their county. 24, the lawsuit is still ongoing and replies between both parties are still going between the court in their county. Sorry, chat, my phone is dying. Halloween means these girls are being absolute train wrecks, and this year was no different. Jacob had his son, so Kristen played house for the holidays and made multiple TikToks insinuating things were no longer good with Jacob's first baby mama, Rachel. Amazing. Meanwhile, Whitney was living up to her reputation with a new blonde bestie named Kirsten. Kirsten also has quite a reputation, but she is more known for being a clout chaser than a WHORE. She first came around the group with Soph and Rachel back in the summertime. When she was done with them, she moved on to dating Owen, Rachel's ex. Their relationship was toxic and abusive and still a mystery to most. So is there not like new men in this like world? Why does everybody date each other's exes? Is it hard to find a new man? I don't understand. That's like very confusing to me. Okay. Somehow Taint Trevon started to live with Kirsten, and that brought her into Whitney's inner orbit. Halloween was was when cracks started to show in the relationship of Kristen and Whitney. The two would start doing things, but the two would still do things together in the coming weeks, but Kirsten became a main focus of Whitney, and even fans of theirs were questioning where Kristen was all of a sudden. Many viewers even started to speculate about a pregnancy for Kirsten and Jacob because she was staying in more frequently. There was even a screenshot going around about an OBGYN appointment scheduled for the beginning of December, which would align with the pregnancy rumors. Into the first week or so of November, Kristen and Jacob bought another boxer to add to their tiny apartment. Sounds like a suitable place to be. Whitney had started to search for a new house to buy, and her eyes were set on a property listed at $1.2 million. The kicker was that she ended up buying that house shortly after she started looking and has been asking for gifts off Amazon from her brainless followers. Riddle me why she needs help, especially when Kirsten moved in with her and also has money from social media. I'm getting off track here. Right. So after adding another dog to her house, Kristen left for Michigan to celebrate Thanksgiving without Jacob. And after that, they left for the Bahamas with Whitney and Tyler. It was only a matter of time. While in the Bahamas, the pregnancy talk was at an all-time high because the pregnancy was finally confirmed. Many fans to this day will say that Rachel leaked the pregnancy through her Threads account, but others think it was from a more inside source like Whitney or Marissa. How would Rachel have even known if someone from the inner group did not tell her first? Anyway, the group just started to have ultrasound pictures with them for the trip and made a big announcement on the beach. Most people knew she was pregnant because she lives by the pull and pray method. Because she lives by the pull and pray method, along with never using condoms or birth control. For months, she drops hints that she was wanting to get pregnant by Jacob, and when she confirmed it, most people knew it was only a matter of time. And truly, what is there to brag about? Kristen started dating a man who has another child who just turned 1 in November, and she will be about ready to give birth on their 1-year dating anniversary. Kristen constantly drags the other baby's mom and expects what in all actuality. To top it off, Kristen has yet to put down her beloved vape since finding out in October she is pregnant. Let me read that again. To top it all off, Kristen has yet to put down her beloved vape since finding out in October she is pregnant. The studies on nicotine alone tell anyone low birth weights and premature labor are common in smokers. There are no long-term studies on the effects of vapes, but one can imagine with all the added chemicals in them, just how detrimental that can be to a growing baby. I just hope she is happy on her high horse of judgment while it lasts. Now, why the hell would you do that? When these four got back from yet another trip, it was time for Kristen and Jacob to leave the apartment they were almost evicted from. But this time, it was willing. They somehow managed to move into a new house elsewhere in Florida. Kristen has mentioned wanting to be closer to her family back in Michigan, since finding out she is pregnant. But because Jacob has another child with someone else, they have to stay close by. When Whitney got home, she found out that her pregnant dog is actually going to have 2 babies. That is right. She not only left her horde of dogs to go to the Bahamas, but she also left a pregnant dog for someone else to take care of. Whitney decided to have a home birth for her dog and deliver the puppies herself, even though she never did that before. She went on live that night that Penny went into labor and stayed on live until she unalived one of the puppies before it was even born. Her careless actions cost a puppy its life and left a mother wondering where her baby is. Whitney threw herself into a pity party and claimed to be so sad for herself, but we all know she just cared about her behavior being caught on live for everyone to see. And how sad could she truly be? She went and purchased another dog not even a month later to add to her nonstop dog collection. In the middle of January, Kristen and Jacob had all their friends come together and find out what the gender of their baby is. They are having a boy. They're having a boy, and that's the best case scenario for a narcissist because Kristen would see her daughter as competition. It's very sick, but true. Meanwhile, Whitney and Tyler were fighting during the gender reveal. At some point, Whitney stuck off with Jaden and a friend of the group. They supposedly had relations, but Whitney will tell everyone it was a lie spread by an old friend named Sav. It must not bother Tyler much since he stayed with her after this rumor spread across the internet. And sadly for Tyler, this wouldn't be the last cheating rumor thrown around against Whitney. After the holidays, Kristen's entire personality became about being pregnant by Jacob. Every post has been about her either being sick and complaining about being pregnant or some type of shade towards Rachel. Her posts about giving Jacob the experience he never had are enough to make any sane person question her and whether she is okay or not. Her behavior became especially unhinged when Rachel broke up with Romeo after he cheated on her at Gasparilla. Once Rachel was single, she did what anybody else does in her situation, whatever she wanted. Rachel was seen with Rocky, Kristen's ex from 2 years ago. It has been said that the two did hook up, and after that, Kristen lost her mind. Things were in turn done to Rachel by Kristen's supporters, and even Romeo wanted to jump at the opportunity to be a piece of shit with them. The situation became very messy very quickly and was settled by both people involved. For more information on what I'm talking about, numerous TikToks have been made and live clips have been posted elsewhere. As for Romeo, rumors spread that while staying at Kristen's house, he effed Whitney. This would make 2 cheating rumors now in a very short time frame for Whitney. Poor Tyler. Damn. Let me get some water. While talking about Rachel shortly, it is important to note some people she has been seen with two Two of them being Jordy, Liv's best friend, and Kylie, who went to Nashville in August of 2022 with Kristen and company. Jordy seemed like a very quiet girl who only spoke on drama when it directly involved her, like when Whitney made fun of her medical conditions. Kylie is more known for her ongoing drama with her baby daddy, Grant, who in my opinion is a douchebag. She doesn't get too much into other people's drama because she's too busy keeping up with her own shit, but went to hang out with Rachel after the shit show involving Kristen and Jacob. The two girls were seen together, and after Kylie went home, Jordy and Rachel became somewhat inseparable. And I mean that in every sense of the word. Rumors started to come out that threes and fours about threes and fours. And Jordy tried to pin Rachel as some SLUT who effed Jordy's love interest. However, when Rachel spoke up and cleared her name, it came to light that Jordy was the one spending a lot of time on her back. Rachel had been talking to a guy named Mason, and Jordy had a 3 with him and another friend one night after a 4 supposedly happened involving Rachel and Jordy some nights prior. All of this turned into a week-long drama feast of Jordy playing mental gymnastics in order to make herself sound better after trying to paint Rachel as a victim. Since then, not much has been said about the situation, and I mean, what else is there to be said? 2 pages left in part 2, chat. Ooh, Chloe? Okay. To leave us on a fun note, I figured we would talk about St. Patty's weekend. A lot has been happening, but let's start with Tyler leaving Whitney at home to go visit his family. She claimed she wanted to stay home and be with her dogs, but this was a lie that would soon be unveiled. Let's start with the Tim McGraw concert that Whitney went to with Kristen and Soph, and also Rachel's ex-friends, Shelby and Kelly. Whitney claiming that she wanted to be with her dogs, but going out was weird enough. But Kristen hanging out with all of Rachel's old friends at once is borderline crazy. Also, Kristen loved to say she created friend groups, but what do you call this? Anyway, the next day was a boat day that happened with just Whitney because Kristen stayed behind for this one. Apparently, Bree, Whitney's friend, invited some of the girls and Trayvon onto her boyfriend's boat for a day, which I thought Bree's man cheated on her. But maybe she just lacks self-esteem like her best friend and takes back men who disrespect her. Videos started to come out that day that Connor and Rocky, Kristen's exes, were also on the boat. People found it weird that Whitney was hanging around those two when questioned about it, it was all placed on Kirsten. Kristen said she didn't care, but later on messages came out from Kristen's mom messaging a stranger saying that Kristen was distancing herself from Whitney because she does not agree with all of Whitney's actions. Whitney turned around and got on live saying that all her trauma makes her a shitty person and that's why she does some of the shit she does. Interesting take, but not an excuse to bully people relentlessly online for years and even to use an old friend's trauma as podcast material. Period. Seek a better therapist, Whitney. The next day or so, Kristen and Whitney made up, or whatever it is called, to insincerely forgive someone for their mother messaging a stranger to express real feelings. In the next coming weeks, it will be interesting to see where their friendship lands, especially with Kristen having a baby very soon. Babies change relationships, and Kristen is in for a very rude awakening. Okay, now this is the last page of part 2. Will the drama ever end? One would hope at one point that there would be that they would tire themselves out. But here we are, still going. Kristen is about 6 months pregnant and still going strong on her vape addiction, while also sucking the life out of Jacob. He deserves it though, let's be honest. He did nothing in Karma's eyes to deserve a happy life. At this point, we all are just making bets on who baby mama 3 will be. Mine is Whitney. And speaking of Whitney, she will never grow up, and her childish actions will follow her for the rest of her life. Her digital footprint is bigger than her front 2 teeth. Nothing about her is a secret, and her boyfriend, who isn't even old enough to drink legally yet, thinks he won the grand prize. The only person who suffers from all of these people's actions is Kristen's unborn baby. She doesn't even care about him. She uses an at-home ultrasound machine from Whitney's dog to check on him and she doesn't look healthy. All of this to say, I will be back with part 3 of this shit show when summertime rolls around and more effery is discovered. Chat. I just read part 1 and part 2 of the timeline of Kristen Whitman. That was a lot, Sumaki. That was a lot. Where the is part 3, bitch? I need part 3 immediately. Because the way I'm about to dive into this is insane. And do you know how many people... Bro, I've been sent so many videos. I've been sent so many screenshots. I've been sent so... Like, bro, a lot. It only gets worse. Chat, okay, hold on. Hold on. I think we need to have a panel, okay, to really get into it. So what I'm going to do is end this live here so that I can post this up to YouTube for anybody who missed it, okay? So that y'all can watch that if you guys don't want to read that, because there was a lot going on and I didn't even want to read it, but I got through it, okay? So everybody follow me right now. If you're not already following me, we're going to have a panel in like 2 minutes. So follow right now. Follow right now. I'm going to download this live and post it up so all of this, you know, the panel doesn't get into that recording. So when you guys do read that recording, it's not like the panel as well. It'll just be this. So follow me right now if you're not already following. I'm going to restart my live. Just go to my page, you know, tap some videos, like, comment, subscribe, like, comment, repost, and I'll be right back. I'm going to restart my live and we'll do a panel. See you in a second.